I read this, there's a great book, it's called Heaven. I want to read this to you about a situation similar. Now listen to this and see if it doesn't strike a chord with you. He writes, ancient cities kept rolls of their citizens. Guards were posted at the city gates to keep out criminals and enemies by checking their names against the list. Now this is a context for Revelation. So this is kind of where we're at. And then he writes, Ruth Anna Metzger, a professional singer, tells a story that illustrates the importance of having our names written in the book. Several years ago, she was asked to sing at the wedding of a very wealthy man. According to the invitation, the reception would be held on the top 2 floors of Seattle's Columbia Tower, the Northwest's tallest skyscraper. She and her husband Roy were excited about attending. And at the reception, waiters in tuxedos offered luscious hors d'oeuvres and exotic beverages. The bride and groom approached a beautiful glass and brass staircase that led to the top floor. Someone ceremoniously cut a satin ribbon draped across the bottom of the stairs. They announced the wedding feast was about to begin. Bride and groom ascended the stairs, followed by their guests. And at the top of the stairs, a maitre d' with a bound book greeted the guests outside the door. May I have your name, please? I'm Ruth Anna Metzger, and this is my husband, Roy. And he searched the M's. I'm not finding it. Would you spell it, please? Ruth Anna spelled her name slowly, and after searching the book, the maitre d' looked up and said, I'm sorry, but your name isn't here. Well, there must be some mistake, Ruth Anna replied. I'm the singer. I sang for the wedding. The gentleman answered, it doesn't matter who you are or what you did. Without your name in this book, you cannot enter the banquet. And he motioned to a waiter and said, show these people to the service elevator, please. And the Metzgers followed the waiter past beautifully decorated tables laden with shrimp, whole smoked salmon, and magnificent carved ice sculptures. Adjacent to the banquet area, an orchestra was preparing to perform, the musicians all dressed in dazzling white tuxedos. And the waiter led Ruth Anna and Roy to the service elevator, ushered them in, and pushed G for the parking garage. After locating their car and driving several miles in silence, Roy reached over and put his hand on Ruth Anna's arm. Sweetheart, what happened? Well, when the invitation arrived, I was busy, Ruth Anna replied. I never bothered to RSVP. Besides, I was the singer. Surely I could go to the reception without returning the RSVP. And then Ruth Anna started to weep. Not only because she had missed the most lavish banquet she'd ever been invited to, but because she suddenly had a small taste of what it will be like someday for people as they stand before Christ and find their names are not written in the Lamb's Book of Life. Throughout the ages, countless people have been too busy to respond to Christ's invitation to the wedding banquet. Many assume that they're good. The good that they've done, perhaps attending church, being baptized, singing in the choir, or helping in a soup kitchen will be enough to gain entry to heaven. But people who do not respond to Christ's invitation to forgive their sins are people whose names aren't written in the Lamb's Book of Life. And to be denied entrance to heaven's wedding banquet will not just mean going down the service elevator to the garage. It will mean being cast outside into hell forever. In that day, no explanation or excuse will count. All that will matter is whether our names are written in the book. If they're not, we'll be turned away. Have you said yes to Christ's invitation to join Him at the wedding feast and spend eternity with Him in His house? If so, you have a reason to rejoice. Heaven's gates will open to you. If you have been putting off your response, your RSVP. Or if you presume that you can enter heaven without responding to Christ's invitation, one day you will deeply regret it. When I look at this man, this thief on the cross, thinking about only himself and only right now, I think that 2,000 years have passed and he still is regretting that moment. Every moment of his life. It never leaves his mind. This is paradise lost. This is the cross of rejection. But we don't want to spend all day on the cross of rejection, do we? Let's move on, shall we? To paradise found. The one thing about this man is that he died in his sins. He died in his sins. But the next one, which is even better, and I like this, I like happy stories much more than the tragic, is the cross of repentance. Matthew 27:44 tells that these men, in the same way the robbers who were crucified with him also heaped insults upon him. I don't want you to miss that point. Did you hear what it said in Matthew? In Luke, it sounds like, oh, this guy's, he's okay. He's alright. He just kind of messed up and he's hanging on the cross. But according to Matthew's version, when they were nailed to the cross, they were both in on it. Not only was this guy heaping blasphemy on him, but so was this guy. He was saying the same thing. Yeah, what he says is right. Save us. Get us off this cross. We want to get off. We want to be saved. We don't want to go through this. Me. My. But something happened. What changed this man? Why would he go from this to asking Jesus to remember him when he came into his kingdom? I think there are a few reasons. First of all, I think he heard Jesus' prayer. Last week. So profound, wasn't it? Jesus Christ, the Son of God, hanging on the cross, saying over and over and over again, when he was beaten, when he was tried wrongly, when he was whipped, when he was punched, when his beard was plucked out, when the crown of thorns were placed on him, when they mocked him, every stage he was saying, not yet. Hold off on your wrath. And remember, God on His throne, taking it all in and seeing what His Son was going through. And His Son having a bird's eye view, or maybe not bird's eye, but looking up. He saw what God was seeing. And He knew that His Father was looking down, ready to pounce, ready to nail these guys for doing what they did. He's angry. He's almost repentant that He even created the world. And Jesus' response is, hold on, not yet. Don't interfere just yet. Allow this to play out, Father. Can you imagine what he was feeling? But this thief, hanging to his right, he hears this prayer. Now, if you hear the Son of God praying to God saying, not yet, don't pour out your wrath yet. If you're like me, you know that it is coming. There's a time when He's going to say, okay. So I think He heard this prayer. He heard what Jesus was saying. And next, I think He comprehended His problem. He knew that there was a holy God ready to judge him. He knew that he was in a lot of trouble. That if things didn't change, he would be forever condemned. Not just to a painful death, but to a forever without any hope. And I think, and I might be wrong, this is all my opinion, but I think he began to see the bigness of God, the holiness of God, the awfulness of God, the terror of a holy God who is jealous for His Son when He's watching His Son suffer so greatly. And He knew that there would be hell to pay. Literally. I think he got a glimpse. Have you ever seen God? Have you ever seen the holiness of God? Have you ever seen the power of God? Have you ever seen anything that was like that and just were blown away? I remember when Denise first saw the ocean. I took her to the ocean down in Jacksonville, Florida. She'd never been there. We're from Illinois. We hadn't seen anything bigger than Lake Michigan. We didn't know what waves were. Well, I took her down there. We're driving all the way. We're talking, we're going to see the ocean. We're going to see the ocean. It's going to be great. We're going to see the ocean. We got there, and it was dark. But I still wanted to see the ocean. So we leave, and you could hear the ocean. Roar! Like big waves. It was I don't know. You know what I'm saying? The ocean was making noise like it does. And we got there. Do you remember this? We are walking the beach, and it had to be a long walk. But before we got there, she literally collapsed. I mean, she was like, no, I don't want to go any closer. I don't know what's there. It's just too scary. I can't see it, but I can hear it. And it's so big, and it's so powerful that it brings me to my knees. I mean, she was terrified. I wasn't, but she was. I tried to drag her there. But there was something about it. And the next day, we go out there and we stand in front of the ocean. Have you ever felt so small than when you stand in front of the ocean? This man saw not the ocean, but the Creator of all of the oceans and all of the mountains and everything that is. And he knew that this God had His number. And he was terrified. I think he knew exactly where he was. And it woke him up. But the good news is that right to his left, he saw and he recognized his pardoner. He knew, not like him, who rejected him, there's no hope, but he saw in Jesus hope. He knew that He was there for a reason, and so He said His words, what are you talking about? Don't you know that we're guilty? We deserve what we're getting, but He has done nothing wrong. He's sinless. He's perfect. You read into this that He had heard about Jesus sometime before. And when He heard this sinless Son of God saying, not yet, Father, forgive them, He knew that there was one chance for Him. And it was the one hanging on the cross. And so He said, Jesus, remember me when you enter your kingdom. He didn't say, Jesus, you know who I am, right? I've got something to offer you in your kingdom. No, He just said, remember me. Don't forget about me. He recognized His pardoner. He saw something in Him, and it gave Him great hope. He was ready to receive some grace, some hope. He didn't deserve it, but He saw it, and it blew His mind. When we are exposed to grace, it's got to change us. It's got to make an impact on us, or our hearts are dead. And He saw it.